finally time. After 2 days of hyping this thing up, it's finally time. Of course, I'll wait for you guys to come into the stream before we get started. I really hope this works because the audio on my laptop is not the best when it comes to video, but hopefully these videos will be loud enough to where you're able to hear them. Hey, Zach D. And you can hear me. You can hear me. I'm glad you guys can hear me. 15 minutes can save you 15% or more on car insurance. You know, I have heard that. I have heard that. And ladies and gentlemen, this is a first, and I hope he doesn't mind me hyping him up a little bit, but we actually have a little bit of a celebrity in the house in his own way. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you, if you guys are familiar with, how many of you are familiar with the infamous Westboro Baptist Church? Because if you're not, then this introduction's not going to mean anything to you. And I really hope he doesn't mind. Well, ladies and gentlemen, here live in this stream right now, and yes, I'm making a big deal about it because this is his first time in the stream. He is ladies and gentlemen, please welcome former Westboro Baptist Church member, Zach Phelps Roper. Yes. He has become one of my good friends ever since he left Westboro 4 years ago. So, yeah, welcome him. Well, I know you're no celebrity, Zach, but I just said that because a lot of people know about Westboro, so I wanted to give you an appropriate introduction. So, yeah, everybody welcome him to the stream. Oh, yeah, man, no problem. No problem, man. I love you too. Oh, you you thought I meant he'd be on camera with me? Oh, no. We're in two different states. I'm in Alabama. He's in Utah. So, yeah. No, he's just going to be here in the chat with us for a while. He's going to react to some stories with us. And I've got some cool things planned. I got a lot of good YouTube channels that I'm going to be reviewing tonight. So and Zach. So we got two Zachs here. You got Zach D and Zach Z. So I will be calling you guys by your first name and your initial. So, yeah. Just so I don't confuse myself or you guys. Hey, Mats. How's it going? Mats Vandera from Amsterdam. I really hope I said it right this time. I've been practicing. I was practicing that all day today. Doing good? Good. I'm glad has everybody had a good Halloween day so far? I hope so. I pronounced it right? Yes. Yeah, yeah, that's right, Zach. Zach Z. He's from Amsterdam. Now, my European geography isn't that good, but I'm not good. I'm not really good with uh, my European geography, right? But isn't Amsterdam in Holland? Because if not, I'm going to look really stupid right now. It is in Holland. I'm two for two tonight. I pronounced his name right and where he's from, and I guess where he's from. So I feel really good about myself right now. And Dylan, I'm sorry today's been bad for you. Oh, a bit of homework. Yeah, yeah. That has to be expected with any college course and everything. I never went to college, so I thought that high school was enough for me. So yeah. Okay, Mats says Holland is a collection of two provinces in the Netherlands, and Amsterdam is in one of them. Oh, okay, okay, that's cool. You guys can all hear me and see me. Okay, like it's not lagging or buffering at all. Yeah, Dylan, I know. Lucky me. I just decided I didn't want to go to college. Oh, loud and clear, Mats. Okay, I'm glad. Everyone else can hear me and see me. How was my day, Zach D? It was fine. It's been pretty boring, just just getting ready for tonight and trying to find stories that I think you guys would like. And this stream is going to go on for quite a while. I wanted this to be a big thing, and yes, my light is going to be on. I'm not going to be in the dark. I should have tried to set this up a little bit better. Hey, Andrew, how's it going, man? Yeah, and it's not because I'm a chicken and I'm afraid to do these stories in the dark. It's because my laptop doesn't really reflect that much light. So if I turn my light off, I'm afraid you guys won't be able to see me. So yeah, that's how it's gonna go. Hey, Jonathan, how's it going? Glad you guys. Wow, I'm really glad you guys committed to this. Yes, Zach D. For those of you, well, I know the only one in here who probably doesn't know is Zach Z. That's really going to confuse me. Zach D and Zach Z. But anyway, yeah, Jonathan, Andrew, like I said, we have a former Westboro Baptist Church member with us tonight, Zach Phelps Roper, aka Zach Z. So welcome him. I know you two weren't in here when I gave him the big introduction, so yeah, he is here with us. A former Westboro member is here with us. So yeah. Anyway, I'm not gonna hype you up anymore, Zach Z. I promise. But anyway, I don't really have a plan for like um like there's no real format for this, and like I was saying, Zach Z. I promised Zach D that I was going to react first to a series that he has called Ardening 4. So yeah, uh, and I am a man of my word. I'm not going to go back on that. So yeah, got my cherry Kool-Aid with me because, well, I like Kool-Aid. What can I say? You know what I'm going to do first. Yeah, for those of you, I didn't even tell you guys this. Zach has 2 kids now, and Zach Z has 2 kids, and he named his firstborn son after me. So, yeah, that is an honor, and definitely something that I didn't expect to happen. So, yeah, I am thrilled about that, and I'm very grateful that yeah, I'm very grateful that he decided to name his first son after me. So, yeah, I am very flattered, Zach, and thank you for that. Hey, Zach D says, my reaction to episode 5 should be interesting. We'll see. Now, you said, Zach D, you said that this is a scary series that you do, right? Or something like that? Well, thank you, Zach Z. I'm glad you think that about me. Sorry. Oh, the 4th one is the scariest. Okay. Well, I'm going. Yeah, I am going to do that first, as promised. But I want to do a test first, just to see if the audio is going to be good. Obviously, I'm not going to show the screen. I mean, you're going to see me. That's what this is. So hopefully, you guys are okay with that. And yeah, I'm going to do a test video first. I'm going to go to one of my videos and see if you guys can hear the audio okay. Because if you can't, then this isn't going to work like I thought it was. So hold on 1 second. Okay, I'm just going to pick a random video of mine. Okay, it's playing now. Tell me if you guys can hear it. Back with another video. I'm recording this a little early today. My mom and I are about to hang out. This is my last official day of my vacation, so just gonna make the best out of it. So I'm gonna hang out with her, but I wanted to make this video first. You can hear it. What this is, the funny thing is, this is as high as my volume can go. And since I'm going to be reacting to really big YouTubers, then again, I assume that it's not going to be that big of a problem. Stop, dadgummit. Okay, thank you. You guys can hear it. Yes, that's what I wanted to hear. I'm glad to hear that. You see, I don't really have that loud of a voice anyway. My voice has always been deep and really low, so maybe that's why you guys can't really hear it that well. But since I'm going to be reacting to some really big YouTube channels, maybe the audio is going to be louder. That's what I'm hoping anyway. So, yeah. But you guys can hear it pretty clear. Okay, I'm glad to hear that. I really am. Okay, so I think I've chatted enough. 15 minutes in, and I haven't done anything yet. Okay, you can hear me well. Okay, good. Okay, I'm going to stop being skeptical about the rest of the show now. Okay, so, okay, here we go. And as promised, We will be starting with Zach D's Ardening 4 series. Let me just pull that up. He told me there's 8 parts to it. Okay. I am not skilled at this. Okay, I see the playlist, and without further ado, now I'm on another tab, like the camera. I know the camera's still rolling. Like, am I still visible? Like, am I still moving around and stuff? I know that probably sounds like a dumb question, but yeah, what I did is I opened a separate tab to the videos, and I hope that by me, not watching my stream, since I'll be reacting to these videos, I hope you guys can still see me and I can move and all that. Okay, I am. Okay. I promise I won't ask any more dumb questions. Okay. So without further ado, I present to you our first order of business, the 8-part series from Zach D, Ardening 4. Let's get started. Play all. Here we go. Now, I'm not going to be talking a lot because I want to take in everything that's happening. So,
Damn, when I come across these things. So do you have a camp? Camp? No. Looks like I'm not the only one alone then. What's your name? My name? My name is Dr. Wright. What's the mission? See, brother. Oh, no.
well, Zach, I will say this: the production is really good. I really like the way you did this.
You're weak. Good. We need to talk. You see, you're going to be part of an experiment for me. I'm not trying anything. Fine, that's a little overboard. But you will watch. And I will let you know I am not by myself. See, Dr. Wright, there's a different type of sickness out there. The dead aren't the only ones that eat people.
Well, that's not good. All right, that was episode 1. Now here's episode 2. It's not good to eat people. Cannibalism isn't a good thing. Don't do it. I don't care how hungry you get. Don't do it.
Who's Travis? You hearing me? Who's Travis? So who is he? So you're not going to say anything? Nothing at all? You see, I don't like being lied to, Dr. Wright. Who are your people? Who are your people? What I say? Are your people? You have 2 more days left until leftovers are gone.
This is a better storyline than I could have ever come up with. I tell you that. I wish I was this creative. And I mean that. I'm not just saying that. I really do wish I was this creative. And I apologize for all the comments I'm probably missing. I'll go back to the comments after the series is over. I promise. Don't you just hate it when people leave random guns lying around for people to use? Especially when you're trying to escape from a bad situation. What luck? Okay. That got me. That got me.
Roles are reversed. Where are those syringes?
All right, that was the end of episode 2. On to episode 3. Things are starting to heat up. And my laptop takes a minute to load. So.
Hello? Hello? Oh no. Oh, hey kid, got any food or supplies? I don't have anything. I'm looking for the same thing though. What exactly? I need a place to stay. Look, you don't understand. I separated from my friend. Oh wow. We had an extraction mission to escort a syringe. Interesting. So, what's your name? My name is Colin. What's your name? My name is Brad. So Brad, why are you by yourself? Well, everybody leaves me eventually, Bob. I'm sorry. Seems like over a little bit of a decade ago. That was the last time I seen a friend named Travis. Travis? We're looking for someone named Travis too. So was this Travis? Did he have dark hair and was he kind of short? Yeah, come to think of it, you kind of remind me of him. So we're both looking for the same person. Well, don't worry, man. I won't leave you behind this time. Not if we're after the same thing. Yeah, that sounds good. Hey, look. Well, looks like there's a zombie in that tree over there. Oh, yeah, I see it. I didn't even know zombies could climb.
I didn't either, honestly.
Well, that wasn't what I initially had planned. Yeah, I forgot to tell you that I'm quite good with explosions, destruction, and fire. Really? That's pretty cool. I can't see why people keep abandoning you then. I could really use you, man. Well, I'm glad I have someone that wants to help. It's alright. Let's move. Oh, well, look at this cloud. Yeah, it looks like it might storm soon. It's typically a sign of. So what is it, Brad? Nothing. Don't worry. Okay. I thought you said you'd leave me alone. Brad, long time no see. Just stand aside, Colin. I'll handle this. Face it, Brad, you're weak. You may know how to deal with fire, explosions, and destruction. But one thing you can't do is defeat me. Now, come on. We're going to finish when I started. No, Brad! No.
All right, that's the end of episode 3. Let me check out some of the comments real quick before I start episode 4. I've missed a lot, I can tell. Now, Zach D, which episode did you say was the scariest out of these? 4 or 5? Because I'm on episode 4 now. I see we have a new guest. A couple of new guests. Tony, welcome. Cricket 533, welcome. I don't really know who you are, honestly, but welcome. Welcome either way. And Azure White, welcome. Everybody. Okay, episode 5 is the scariest. Well, we're almost there. We're almost halfway there. So, okay, guys, back to the series. This is episode 4.
Brad! Brad, you around? Oh, God, no. Thanks.
Gunshots are never good to hear.
Hey, Colin. Dr. Wright, what are you doing here? This guy here, his name was Gavin. He was a cannibal. I wasted him. Took him out with my last bullet. That man there was a cannibal? Unbelievable. No ammo. Listen, where's the syringe? I need to get it to Travis or whoever this box belongs to. The syringe in the box has Travis's name on it. It's on the table right there. Listen to me, Colin. It belongs to someone named Jacob. I need you to find him and give it to him. Whatever it takes, man. Now, Come on, man, let's go. Dr. Wright, what's wrong? I can't come with you this time. I've seen too much. Just leave me here for the zombies. Listen, Dr. Wright, I will get this to Jacob, whatever it takes, okay? I'll do it for you, man. Please, just leave me, Colin. Leave me!
Nah, I think you should have went with him.
No.
Well, that sucks.
Get away from me. Nobody tells me what to do. No, shut up. What did you say to me? You heard me. Shut up.
Don't make him pimp slap you again. Just shut up.
Brad! Thank God you're okay. What do you want from me? You again. Who are you? My name is Dr. Mindson. That doesn't even matter. You leave Brad alone. He's been through a lot. Yeah, he won't be left alone. He's mine now. We had some unfinished business. Over a decade ago. He was supposed to be one of my creations. He was supposed to be a zombie. A zombie scientist? No. The zombie scientists have had their way far too long. And now, we must put this to an end. I'm afraid I'm going to have to throw you into my portal. Dude. Whoa!
All right. That's episode 4. And now here comes what Zach says is the scariest episode in the series, episode 5. I'm ready. Bring it on.
Where am I?
Whoa, that's... I hate when that sound interrupts my shows in real life. I know something's coming. I know it. Oh, it's kind of like a Five Nights at Freddy's thing. Something else is coming. Yeah. I felt it coming. All right, that was episode 5. I'm going to pause and take a look at the comments. I said stop, pause, heal. Power of Christ compels you. Okay. Oh, the part was inspired by Five Nights at Freddy's. I figured that. That was a cool part. Okay, it doesn't look like I missed much. Okay, Zach, you gotta take your son outside. Okay, I understand. I'll be here when you get back. Okay, on to episode 6. And after this, there's two more to go. Okay, episode 6.
Gotta hide. I gotta. I'm out of here. Yeah, see if you can get me now. I'm so dead. Come now, through the portal if you want to live. You. No! Somebody help! Please! Please! Anybody there? I need help! This can't be. I gotta be living a nightmare right now. No. This just can't be happening. Brad, he's probably in danger. I don't know where he is. Oh. This just can't be. All the doors are locked. Oh, I'm thirsty. Water.
All right, that was episode 6. On to episode 7. This is really well put together, Zach D. I really am enjoying this. I'm sorry I didn't watch these videos sooner. I just now realized that the car is on train tracks. Why am I just now figuring that out?
Get out of here now.
Can't even take a walk in the woods without getting attacked these days.
Yo. Dr. Mindson. You should be dead. Hey, you have something that is mine. Now I want it back. What did you do with Brad? Him? I killed him. And what makes you think you're going to get away with that?
Yeah, who's gonna stop me? I have had 20 injections in me that made me have supernatural powers. You can't stop me.
No. This must come to an end.
Well, I agree.
I can never get too old for this. Whoa, you nearly saved my life there. Thanks. So what's your name? My name is Jacob. Hey, you're Jacob? My name is Colin, and I've been looking for you. What did you want to see me for? That evil scientist had it. He took this and my hat, and he killed my friend. It's great to have my hat back. Anyway, Jacob, this is for you. Oh, what is this? Jacob, what are you doing? Why, Colin? bring that to me? Kidding me, man? No. I did not give this to you just so you could throw it out. You don't understand, do you? Travis is evil. He tried to get me to kill someone named George, and he ended up dying anyway, so. But you don't understand what kind of trouble he has caused. Well, I'm sorry. I actually didn't know that. I had no idea. We do not speak of this again. You hear me? Look, any survivor is a friend of mine. And I don't like being this way with you, Colin. So, what do you say we go find shelter? Oh, man. It really doesn't matter at this point. Don't worry, I know of a place. There's an abandoned prison nearby. An abandoned prison, huh? Let's go.
And I take it this is where the big showdown's going to happen. All right, guys, here we go. Episode 8, the final conclusion.
There's a way through here. You have to trust me. I don't know how stable this place is, so we better be careful. I don't know what to do about this anymore. I just feel like what's the point anymore? This whole thing has been going on for over a decade now. Listen, we'll survive through this, whatever it takes. You know this invasion has been going on for far too long. It's been tough, that's for sure. But us survivors, we gotta stick together. We get through this. That'll be it. Yeah, we're surviving, but what are we gonna accomplish? There's not that many survivors left in this world. I feel like the world's coming to an end. I don't know. But we better move. There might be zombies nearby. I'm not sure though. Let's go. Just look at this place, Jacob. I'm telling you, this is not the right place to be, man.
Let's just move this way, Colin. We'll be okay.
Alright. Well, you got a light on your phone? Yeah, hang on. Okay, let's go. Hey, Jacob? Yeah, what's up? Did you know this lion was here? Oh, no, I didn't. Do you think we should go down? I don't know. I think I hear something down there. What is it? I don't know.
That creeped me out, man. What was that?
I don't know.
Oh my.
Really not the best place to be. You think we can go that way instead?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Catwalk prisoners. Wow. I'm sure this is sturdy. Well, I hope so. Me too. of here. No. Oh, Colin. He's dead. No. Oh, this can't be.
Wow. That's not how I expected it to end at all. I've missed Jose, Cat, Jose. Yes, I am reacting to videos. It's not going to be like videos, but like I'm doing this for Zach D because I promised him that I would react to his Ardening 4 series. But this is the only one where I'll actually be watching a video. The rest will be videos, but it'll be just audio. So I'll be able to interact with you more. But yeah, man, that was really good. I'm impressed. I know you just said there's a scene at the end. Huh. Wow. Wow, that was, hey, and I give props to you, man. That was really good. I enjoyed it. Thank you for having me react to it. Now, to those of you who didn't, I know it's kind of hard to keep up because I'm not showing you the video because I'm not like these YouTubers that know how to put like the video at the bottom of their screen and do all of that. I can't do that. I'm not skilled enough to do that. So those scenes probably didn't make much sense to what I was reacting to. You'll have to go and watch it for yourself. That was really good. And the only jump scare that actually got me was there was a hand on the outside of a window. That first one where I kind of jumped a little bit. And I think because you kind of hinted that there were going to be more jump scares in that 5th episode. So when the It clown face came on that computer screen, that's why I felt it coming. So it didn't get me as much because I just expected it. Yeah, I'm glad did you guys enjoy it like I did? I can see for myself that you guys did. Jonathan liked it. Mott's liked it. Oh, I missed someone else who came in. JSR. I don't know if to the people who just came in, I don't know if you're still here, but welcome. And if you're not, yep, I'm glad you decided to stop by. All right, guys. Wow. An hour in already. It doesn't feel like it's been an hour. Oh, you're putting out a 5th one next year. Oh, that's cool, Zach D. I'll definitely keep an eye out for that. Definitely. Okay, guys. Um, now it's time for the scary story marathon. Um, I'm going to go through 4 popular scary story YouTube channels, and you guys, I'm going to leave it completely up to you which one we react to first. Your choices are Mr. Nightmare, Darkness Prevails, Corpse Husband, and Unit 522. Now, out of those 4, Corpse Husband is the only one that I'm not familiar with. So, yeah, I'll be interested to see what he brings to the table. So, what's it going to be, guys? Is it going to be Darkness Prevails, Mr. Nightmare, Corpse Husband, or Unit 522? Whoever has the most votes in the comments, that's who we react to first. Can you guys? Okay, we got 1 vote for Corpse Husband. Mott's votes for Corpse Husband. Okay. So that's 1. Is the stream still okay for you guys? It's not lagging or anything? Okay, the stream's fine. Okay, I'm just making sure. But yeah, like I said, guys, you got the choice of Mr. Nightmare, Corpse Husband, Darkness Prevails, or Unit 522. Those are your voting choices. And we've already got 1 vote for Corpse Husband. So type in the comments who you voting to react to first. Yeah, Jonathan, this is really good for tonight. I'm glad that I came up with this. I think this is really fun, and I can't believe we're already a little over an hour in. Doesn't feel like it's been that long. But yeah, guys, tell me who you guys are voting for. Okay, the only person that's voted is Mott, and he voted for Corpse Husband. So if you guys can't decide on who to vote for, I'll just pick a channel at random and go from there. Which that's probably what I'll do anyway. And you're not familiar with it? Okay, that's fair enough. I said that the only YouTuber I'm not familiar with out of these is Corpse Husband. So, yeah. Okay, Jonathan, you still here? Jonathan, Motts, you guys still here? Let's see what to react to. Okay, I'll give you guys a choice. Not about the YouTubers, but on what stories, what compilation of stories you want to react to or listen to. I've decided we're going to start with Mr. Nightmare since he is the most popular out of all of these YouTube channels. And do you guys want three creepy true school lockdown stories, or would you like, let's see, or would you like I don't know. There's so many to choose from. Let's see. I promise I'll pick another one. Oh, here we go. Let's see. You guys want three creepy true lockdown stories, or would you like three real horror stories that are creepy as hell? Oh, hey Zach, welcome back. You're just in time. The second one, the stories that are creepy as hell. Okay. You know what's ironic about this? I'm doing Halloween scary stories and my light starts flickering. All right. And I promise that's not a setup. I didn't plan any big Halloween scare for you guys. So, yeah. Oh, that's cool, Zach. You took your son out trick or treating. That's cool. I'm glad you're back. Okay, so three real horror stories that are creepy as hell. Anybody object to that compilation? It's only 11 minutes long. Yeah, mods adds to the spookiness. All right, here we go. Three real horror stories that are creepy as hell by Mr. Nightmare. Here we go. Hopefully, you guys can hear it.
I'll never forget the time my sister Danielle and I were home alone one Friday night when our parents were out. I was 12 and she was 13. We have an average sized house, but you can hear everything going on in there. For example, you could be on the top floor and hear someone talking down in the den. We were both doing our own things in our rooms upstairs. That's when I heard it. A slight tapping coming from downstairs in the den. I soon realized it sounded like tapping on the I sound to the den. It was too dark outside to see who was out there, so I flipped on the outside light. It wasn't my sister, but a random guy. He looked mid-40s, long black hair, graying a bit, red cheeks, probably 6'1". Being that this was our backyard door and some stranger was standing on the outside of it, I almost ran away. But the guy was staring at me with a kind of unintimidating look, as if he needed help. I slightly pushed the door window screen open so he could talk to me. He told me he needed to use our phone. I asked him why and why he was in our backyard. He disregarded what I had said and pleaded for me to let him in. I told him sorry and asked him to leave before I would call the cops. I tried to slide the door window back up, but he actually blocked it with his arm and began reaching into my house trying to unlock the door. When I cried for my sister, the guy pulled his arm away. I ran upstairs where I met my sister halfway. She took a peek through the dense stairway to the back door and saw the guy standing there still. She called our parents. They told us to call the police and to stay upstairs. We both stayed in our rooms for a while. There was no more tapping or anything, so me being my 12-year-old self trying to be brave, I went downstairs to the den. He wasn't standing by the door anymore, but the door window was lower than when I had left it. Then I realized I didn't shut it in the first place. I walked closer to the door and then looked to my left. The door to the office was now open. I could have sworn it was shut earlier. It was too dark to see anything inside, and there was no way I was going in there. I took out my phone, opened the camera, turned on the flash, and pressed the button.
Glad you're here, Tim. I'm starting with Mr.
As the
Nightmare.
phone took the picture, the flash from the camera provided enough light to see the guy who was standing at the door was now hunched over my office desk, and in the picture his head was turned to be facing me. I didn't know if he was running at me or not, but I felt like he was, and I ran upstairs and locked the den door. A familiar light tapping began coming from the den door now, and I could hear the man on the other side begging me to open it. I cried for my sister again and bluffed to the man, saying the cops were here. After that, he stopped, and I could hear the back door open and shut. It may have been stupid to say that, as it ruined any chances of the man getting caught and arrested, but it may have also saved our lives, as the cops did not arrive for another 5 minutes. This story is told under the author's father's point of view. Me and my girlfriend's brother had been talking about hunting, and I decided to take him on a hunting trip. It was his first time going, so I wanted to take him somewhere where I was sure he would get a deer. So I asked my uncle if we could go to his place, and he told me we could stay there for the weekend. I told him that was perfect and that we'd stay. Me and Adam got our stuff together and headed that way. It was a secluded property right smack dab in the middle of nowhere in Braxton County, West Virginia. We got to my uncle's. He had his truck started and told them to hop in. We get in, and I asked him where we're going. He told me to my hunting cabin about 10-15 miles out. When we finally made it to the cabin, it fell below our expectations. 2 rooms, very small. As soon as we unloaded our stuff, he was gone. He told us to have fun and waved goodbye from his truck. Later, when we were getting settled for the night, we realized there were no curtains or lights, just lanterns. We didn't like being so exposed, so we hung clothes over the windows. Not long after, we climbed into bed. Then within a few minutes, there was a noise outside, like metal trash cans being banged against one another. Adam started to get paranoid until I said, "It's probably just a bear or something, go back to sleep." I told Adam, "Don't wake me up unless the cabin's on fire." I went back to sleep, at least until Adam started shaking me, saying, "Cliff, wake up, there's someone outside." "No, go back to sleep, there's no one." I stopped, because on the outside wall, besides Adam's bed, a noise, almost like someone or something was raking its claws or nails all the way down the side of the cabin and stopped at the far window. The noise was followed by tapping on the window. Neither of us wanted to move the clothes to see what it was. I told Adam to load his gun, as I did myself. We stayed up all night and left in the morning. We questioned my uncle if he was playing a trick on us. He didn't have a clue what we were talking about. The author says his dad never went back to that cabin. The picture attached was taken by his uncle before he left them, and you could see the cabin in the background. I was 19 years old at the time, working at a sketchy motel. The motel was pretty run down, and the majority of people who stayed there were locals that were just doing things they weren't supposed to be doing. Let's just say the cops came by multiple times a week. I worked as both a front desk person, checking in these creeps all hours of the night, and as a housekeeper who got to clean up their nasty, vomit-smelling rooms afterwards. One afternoon, I was working as a housekeeper in the second building of the motel on the backside furthest from the office. I hated working over there because it not only had the most worn-down rooms, but it was always pretty vacant over there and way too quiet for comfort. I began cleaning one of my last rooms and wanted to get done in a hurry because it was getting late. I was washing the mirror in the room that I was cleaning when all of a sudden, I saw a man in the reflection staring at me. He was mid-50s, dirty, with long, greasy hair. Startled, I screamed, "Oh my God." I told him he scared me. The room I was currently cleaning was vacant, so there was no reason why this man should have been in there watching me clean. However, we just had a meeting on customer satisfaction, and my boss was really pressuring us to be more polite and help the guests any way we could. Sir?" I asked him cautiously. Can I give you anything? Towels?" The man just stared back at me with a crooked grin and held out his hands to me. I thought maybe he was handing me a tip for cleaning his room earlier, but when I looked down, I saw he was holding a $100 bill. Alarms started going off in my head. No one tips $100 on a $40 a night room. The man just smiled and said his name was Terry. He said he was staying in the room next door with his wife Sherry and sort of joked about their names rhyming. He smelled like car oil and alcohol. When I asked him why he was trying to hand me $100, he laughed deep in his throat and said, "Me and my wife were watching you, and we just wanted to have fun with you." I felt like my heart jumped into my throat. No, I can't do that, sir. I'm sorry." I wanted to run out of the room screaming, but he was blocking the door, my only exit. The man smiled again, taking on a softer tone of voice, and invited me to come into his room to meet his wife, just to talk as friends. I nervously told him no again, and that I had a lot of work to do for the day. I prayed to God he would just go away, and eventually he did. He grunted and walked off in what I assumed to be the direction of his room. My mind began racing. There is no wife, I thought. This man could try and kidnap me. I was 110 pounds at the time and not very strong. He could easily overpower me. I locked the room from the inside and went directly to the phone to call my manager at the front desk, but the phone wasn't working. Adrenaline began pumping through my veins, and despite what I was always told not to do, I was panicking. Did he cut the line? No, I thought. This is a crappy motel. It happens all the time. But I just have to get out. I remembered that I had my cell phone out on my housekeeping card, but that was outside the locked door. I'd have to open the door to get it. I cautiously opened the door to the room that I was cleaning and peered out. I didn't see anyone, so I frantically began searching my card for my cell phone. I was wasting too much time looking for it, so I just decided to run as fast as I could and make a break for the front desk in the office. Then from behind me, I heard the man again, but this time he was screaming to someone else, "She's running, she's getting away." I could hear his shoes slamming against the pavement after me. I quickly turned the corner, grabbed my key card, and let myself into a stockroom and locked the door. Within moments, I heard the sound of the dirty guy and someone else running outside, searching for me. I stayed in that stockroom for 30 minutes shaking until I could no longer hear him searching for me. I finally got the courage to run the rest of the way to the front desk. When I made it there, I collapsed into my boss's arms and he called the police. The man and whoever else was in the room with him peeled out before the cops could arrive, and I was beyond shaken up. According to the police who ran a search, this wasn't the first time he had done something like this, and he was actually wanted for sexual assault, gross sexual imposition, and in the past was once charged with rape. A few weeks later, on what happened to be my birthday, this guy was caught. A few weeks after that, I quit. I will never again work at another motel.
right, that was the first one. That was 3 real horror stories that are creepy as hell by Mr. Nightmare. So what did you guys think of those? I thought they were pretty interesting. And okay, Zach, yeah, I completely understand. I know you're probably already gone now, but I understand you got a big. Yeah, Mats, it was pretty creepy. Oh, and while I got you guys in here, Tim, if you're still in here, I think you're still in here. Um, Mats is the guy I was telling you about from Amsterdam. So yeah, here you go. Yeah, Timothy's my best friend. We've been best friends for around 15 years now, and I was telling him about the stream tonight, and I told him that a guy from Amsterdam was going to come to the stream, and he was really excited about that, really fascinated by it. So yeah, this is him. His name is. Let me see if I can pronounce it correctly. His name is Mats van der A. Okay. But yeah, those stories were interesting. I'm glad you like those. I'm going to do another Mr. Nightmare, and then I'll move on to someone else. And I'll like the first time, I'll let you guys choose these. Your choices are between, let's see, three true scary social media horror stories, or or 3 disturbing real night shift horror stories, volume 2. Oh yeah, that's right, Mats. I forgot you just told me that earlier. My bad. You want the night shift horror stories? Okay. Anybody object to that? Where'd everybody go? I just had 7 people. Now it's back down to 3. Huh. Well, anyway, that's a minor nitpick. I know people come and go, but anyway. So okay, night shift horror stories it is then. This is also by Mr. Nightmare. 3 disturbing real night shift horror stories. Here we go.
I got a job as a police officer a few months ago. For my first year or so, I'm expected to work the overnight shifts and do 3 12-hour shifts a week. It's totally brutal, especially given that the worst things happen at night. It's only my 3rd month on the job, and I already have a nightmarish story to tell. I was patrolling around my designated route, 2 or 3 in the morning, absolutely no cars to be seen on the road at all. Most of my route was dark, since there was a lot of forest in our town. And then there would be one long street called Warren Street, one of the only streets lit up by streetlights around here. All the stores at this hour were closed, of course, so there was very little going on at this time. I took the left turn off a quieter road onto Warren Street. I drove slow, always looking on both sides of the road to see if anything was going on in any of the parking lots. I picked up on something strange as my car zoomed past a coffee shop parking lot. I brought the car to a halt with a heavy stomp on the brakes, brought it to a reverse until I got back to the parking lot. I rolled down my window and stuck my head out to confirm my eyes weren't playing tricks on me.
The lights in the coffee shop were on, which was beyond bizarre. The shop always closed at 6 p.m. on weekdays. I knew because I was a frequent there, and I knew the owner personally. I pulled up to the curb and figured I'd go check the door. When you know it, the door was unlocked. I pushed the heavy glass door open and stepped into the shop, calling the owner's name. Something about my voice echoing into an empty coffee shop at 3 in the morning was freaky as hell. It gave me shivers just wondering why the lights were on. I kept calling the owner's name until I heard a sound come from the basement. I didn't even know there was a basement until that day. I found a door that led downstairs to a dark abyss. I unholstered the flashlight on my belt and aimed it down the stairs. I knew deep down it was my job to go down there and investigate, even though I was really afraid to. There wasn't a light switch to be found, so I made my way to the bottom of the concrete stairs, not able to see much outside of the narrow beam of light that my cheap-ass police flashlight projected. I was at the bottom of the stairs now, looking around the pitch-black basement of the shop. Then there was the sound again, only this time much louder. It sounded like some kind of half electronically produced and half organically produced sound. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's really the best way I can describe it. It came from a back room. I stepped into that back room, which appeared to be an office of sorts. I just stood there, waiting for the sound again. Might have stood there for 30 seconds until the same exact sound erupted from the corner of the room. It was a terrible, distorted kind of sound. It apparently came from inside an air vent in the corner. First thing I did was try to shine the light into the vent, but it didn't really work. The grill blocked any amount of light that would actually light up the inside of the vent. What I did next was put my ear up to the vent to try and listen for anything that could be inside. I heard something in there. I was 80% sure what I was hearing was the sound of someone breathing. My heart started racing even faster than it was 10 seconds ago. I tried one more time to see into the vent, this time angling the flashlight a little differently and pressing one eye up to the vent grill. I guess the light beamed off the grill of the vent at just the right angle, because I saw the glow of an eye literally 4 inches from my face. I unholstered my gun as I shouted at the person in there to come out now. But as I tried the vent door, it seemed to be screwed on still. I could hear the person shimmying away through the vents until the sound was completely gone. Where did that vent lead to? How did they get in there? Why were they in there? What was that strange noise? So many questions that still remain unanswered. I called for backup, and we did a thorough investigation. We called the owner, who came by to help us search the place at like 4 in the morning. There were no signs of breaking and entering anywhere. Not a single unscrewed vent, not a single broken window, nothing. Our investigation didn't last more than a few hours, after which we determined whoever was in the vents was gone. The thing that scares me the most is the sounds that I heard. Not just the breathing from the vent, but that sound that was emitting from the vents. That sound that could be heard all the way from the upstairs of that shop. I used to work at a gas station off some rural highway in Ohio. It was a 24-hour gas station. I usually worked from 8 p.m. to 4 a.m. The shift always started busy. Lots of people on road trips coming in for coffee and snacks, filling up gas obviously, and usually around 11 to 12 it would really quiet down. There would still be some people coming in, but once 1 or 2 a.m. hit, it was usually dead until the end of my shift. Usually by that time I was just playing games on my phone, doing work for my web classes, or watching movies on my laptop. The night in question, I was actually catching up on a TV show I was watching at the time. The road was completely dead at this hour. You could expect to see maybe 1 car pass by every 5 minutes, and maybe 1 car came into the lot every 20 minutes to a half hour. The headlights of a car suddenly glared through the window briefly as a car turned into the gas station lot and pulled up to one of the pumps. The car turned off, and so did the lights. No one stepped out, though. My attention went back to my show, and it did for a while. In fact, it took me a few minutes to realize that the car outside was still there. but no one ever came in to pay for gas, nor was there anyone standing outside filling up. The car was still just parked next to the pump. It was a bit sketchy, but then again, maybe they were texting or on a call or counting money. There could be a number of reasons. Finally, I heard a car door shut outside. I paused my show, expecting them to come inside, but the guy just stood by his car. It looked like he was facing down at first, but when I squinted my eyes a little, I saw he was actually looking at me. He finally came over to the door and came inside. The bell of the door rang as some guy with his hood up walked right past the counter. He gave an ever so slight side glance to me. I could see just one of his eyes for a short second before he turned away and walked to the back section of the store by the snacks. I couldn't see or hear him while he was back there. He seemed to be back there for a while. I called out, "Do you need help, sir?" Not even the slightest sound in response. Just as I was about to come out from around the counter, the man came out from the corner and slowly walked back outside, not looking at me once. He went back to the pump, opened his passenger side door, and seemed to be digging in his car for something. Then he shut the door and looked at me again. Regardless of the distance and glass between us, I knew he was looking at me. He lifted his arms and seemed to begin waving me over. I didn't know what to do, but everything about this situation and this man were freaking me the hell out. He started walking very quickly over to the door, still waving his arms and hands at me. He put one hand in his pocket now, while waving with the other still. It looked like he was reaching for something. I ran around from the counter and to the door so I could lock it. I managed to with only 3 seconds to spare before he tried pulling it open. This was the first time I could see his face as he looked at me and I looked at him. I noticed his hand in his pocket, holding what I was sure was the handle of a blade. I shut the blinds to the windows as I told him we're closed. He still stood there though. I tried to put it out of my mind, but I couldn't because he started knocking on the glass. He knocked and knocked and knocked until it turned into more of a banging. I screamed a threat to call the cops if he didn't go away. He stopped a few moments after I said that, and I think he walked away. I didn't check. He simply stayed hidden behind the counter. Gave minutes before I would open the blinds back up. When I did, I felt a certain kind of horror in my body when I saw his car was still there. Where was he? Was he in his car or somewhere outside? Paranoid thoughts came to my head, like what if he was by the back door? I felt relieved when another car pulled into the parking lot and a normal-looking man came to the door. I unlocked it for him and he came in with 2 20s in his hand. I told him to be careful of that other car, and then we got into a long conversation about what just happened. During the conversation, the other car turned on and finally drove off. The man and I both laughed about it, but when the guy who worked after me finally came in at 4 a.m., I was not laughing. My whole drive home, I was still shaking, thinking about what happened. Nothing that strange ever happened again throughout the rest of my time at that gas station. My second job ever was delivering Chinese food at a local corner Chinese place in 2008. It was one of my best paying jobs to date, mainly because of how fast paced the place was, and how many deliveries, aka tips, I would make. It was a busy Thursday night, a half hour before closing time. We had 3 delivery guys working, myself included. My boss was always a hard ass. As usual, he told me to make the delivery and be back quickly. The address led to a town 5 miles away though, so I knew this would be a longer trip. But the longer ones always had the better tips. I still remember the order. It was just an order of wonton soup and rice. It was a 15-minute drive. I pulled up to the house, and it was not exactly the most appealing area of town. I stepped out of the car with a small brown bag of food, and before I stepped up the curb from the street, I stopped and looked up at the upstairs window of the house I was delivering to. There was half of someone's face peeking at me. And by half, I mean I could just see someone's eyes and the top of their nose, as if they were trying to hide. I didn't know what to think. didn't look like some kid, it looked like a grown man. All I could do was continue walking to the door. I found a note on the door saying, "Doorbell broken, asleep, door unlocked, money on table, please come inside and leave food on table." The note was so bizarre I had to take a picture of it. You know how they say red flags can go off in your head in a split second? Well, that's exactly what I was feeling. I stepped back a few feet to look up at the window again. The person wasn't at the window anymore. I knew they weren't asleep, so why would they leave a note like this? I tried to rationalize. Maybe it's a really socially awkward person who prefers not to engage with a delivery person. I slowly turned the knob, and yes, the door was unlocked. There was no light at all in there. I couldn't distinguish where the table was that the money was allegedly sitting on. I tried going left, and found myself in what I assumed was the kitchen because I could hear a fridge nearby. Like I said, it was dark as hell in there. I finally came up with the brilliant idea of using my phone as a light. I put the brightness up all the way, and that's when I saw the silhouette of a person in the corner of the kitchen. No features, nothing. Just the silhouette of someone. At that moment, I dropped the bag of food on the floor and walked out the front door back to my car. I never looked back at that sketchy-ass house, nor did I ever go back to that sketchy-ass part of town. My boss was pissed even after I explained it to him, but that's just how he is. I did another delivery that night and went home and couldn't sleep all night thinking about what could have happened in that house had I actually gone up to that table.
All right, that was the Night Shift Stories by Mr. Nightmare. That one was pretty freaky. Okay, I'll do one more from Mr. Nightmare and then I'll move on to someone else. This time, your two choices are, let's see. Your choices are 3 true neighbor horror stories or 3 scary real hotel horror stories. So who wants to get some pizza now? Hey, pizza doesn't sound too bad, but you know, that's probably the rationalized decision in that last story. He did all that way he could get his food for free. It makes perfect sense. He scared the hell out of the delivery guy. That way he wouldn't have to pay. That's brilliant. I understand that. Maybe I should try that. Okay, so we got 1 vote for the neighbor horror stories and 1 for the hotel horror stories. We need a tiebreaker here. Months. Yeah, that's your average Tuesday night. I'll remember that. So we got 1 vote for the hotel stories and 1 for the neighbor stories. I need somebody to break the tie. Like I said, this will be the last Mr. Nightmare story compilation, and then I'll move on to someone else. I'm trying not to give my own personal, what I would vote for, but honestly, the one that's looking interesting to me is hotel because, and Tim can tell you this. I've always hated hotels just because it's kind of unfamiliar territory for me. I don't like to be like it's a strange place for me, and I'm never able to sleep. Like I've always got to have like the TV on in the hotel. It's just not. It's never a good experience for me, really. So yeah, Tim knows that about me, how I feel about hotels. Maybe I'm just weird like that, but it's really just the unfamiliarity of where you're at, and you don't know what could happen. So yeah, I should do top 15s or chills. Oh, I forgot about chills. Who knows? Yeah, I could probably add him to the list. You just had pizza, Jonathan. That's cool. I had what did I have for dinner? I had I don't remember what I had for dinner, and I just ate it like a couple hours ago. What did I have? Oh, I had chicken. I had chicken, cheddar broccoli rice, and butter beans. Yes. Okay, corpse husband. Okay, for you, Jonathan, I'll do corpse husband next because I've never heard of corpse husband. He's the only one out of these YouTube story channels that I haven't heard of. You've slept in many hotels and you always sleep fine. Well, that's cool, man. To each their own. You had pizza too without cheese. No, I gotta have cheese on pizza, man. I gotta have cheese. Period. I'm a cheese person. I really am. Okay, so I'm gonna be the tiebreaker here, and since the hotel stories sound the most interesting to me, I'm gonna go with the three real hotel horror stories to end Mr. Nightmare. So here we go. If you guys are ready, here are three scary real hotel horror stories from Mr. Nightmare. And then we'll go on to Corpse Husband next. I wasn't expecting that grand of an intro.
This happened in the summer, and I believe I was about 12 at the time. I was staying in a hotel in a fairly large city with my mom and my younger brother. We were visiting other extended family, but chose not to stay in their house. My brother is younger than me by a decent amount, so I was usually told to keep an eye on him. On the day we arrived, my mom told me to do just that while she checked us in and received our room card. So, my brother and I sat down on a couch in the lobby and relaxed a little bit. While we were sitting, a man in about his mid-40s walked into the hotel. The couch was facing the hotel doors, so I got a good look at him. I remember that he was very average looking. Describing his features in detail could generate several different images. The guy comes in and sits on the couch opposite ours. I didn't think anything of it until I realized that he didn't go up to the counter first. He just came in and sat down. It made me feel a little uncomfortable. Maybe I was being a bit paranoid, but I thought he might have followed us in. Thankfully, my mom called us over and told us that our room was ready. We left the lobby and went to our room. Shortly afterwards, we left the hotel to go meet family. I forgot about the man for the rest of the day. We returned at about 7, and my mom told us that we could go swimming in the hotel pool. We all went to our room, changed, and went to the pool. A few minutes after we got into the water, the same man from before walked in and sat down. He was wearing jeans and a sweater, so he definitely wasn't going swimming. Again, we didn't think much of it
until I could see that my mom was visibly worried. She pointed him out to me, and she said that if he didn't leave within 5 minutes, we needed to go back to our rooms. 5 minutes passed and he was still there, so we got our things and left. By then, it was close to 8 o'clock. We had brought a rented movie to watch, so we planned to watch that and go straight to bed. I noticed that my mom was a little on edge because of the man who had been watching us, and I got a little more worried myself, too. Halfway through the movie, my mom got up to get into the shower. While she was in there, someone knocked on the door and said, "Housekeeping." I thought it was weird that the cleaning staff would come this late, but we needed another towel, so I answered the door. I wish I hadn't been so stupid. There was the same creepy man. He gave me a smile and a little wave. I just stood there, kind of motionless. My mind automatically went to the worst possible situation: kidnapping, rape, torture, etc. I heard the water in the shower turn off. He stood there as well for a moment, and then he spoke. "How was your swim?" At that moment, my mom came out of the shower, saw the man at the door, pulled me back, and slammed the door. She locked it. Then she called the front desk from our hotel phone to report the guy. I told her to just call the police, but she didn't listen. She then requested we switch rooms. I then heard footsteps stomping down the hallway away from our room. Thankfully, the guy had left. After that, we switched hotel rooms and didn't see the guy again during our stay. Have you ever gotten an uneasy feeling staying in a hotel room, especially by yourself? Likely not, and I also doubt you've ever been in a hotel room by yourself. But when I was a kid, I always got scared sleeping in hotel rooms. I would always keep looking back at the dark corners of the room every 20 seconds, thinking there would be somebody standing there. My fear not only drove me crazy, it drove my parents crazy, as I would always insist that I would sleep between them until I was around 9 or 10 years old. Anyway, eventually I had to grow up, or at least give off the impression, and started sleeping in my own bed or sharing the bed with my sister. Now I'm 24 years old, living on my own, and have to take a lot of business-related trips for my job. On one particular out-of-town trip, I was staying at a Comfort Inn in North Carolina, with all the expenses paid by my job, of course. I was in the area for a meeting with an office in a different town, and the inn was my home for the night. It was across the street from some big car dealership. That's all I remember about the surroundings. Anyway, I was off the next day, so I could look forward to just relaxing in the hotel and watching a couple movies. I was ironically watching the first Saw movie, and I swear, during the scene where Adam was hearing sounds in his apartment, my childhood paranoia started to come back for a bit, as I thought I heard little crackling type noises coming from inside the closet. Being 24, I told myself that I had to get over this nonsensical childish fear. I simply raised the volume on the movie and tried to ignore it. At the same time, I popped 2 sleeping pills into my mouth so that I'd be wiped out by the time the movie was over. Eventually, I flipped off the TV and rolled over onto my side to finally get some shut-eye. That was when the crackling noises became apparent again. It wasn't constant or anything. It was just like once every minute or so I'd hear this noise that I just can't describe. It wasn't happening too frequently to really bother me, and the sleeping pills were knocking me out at that point, so I was out within like 10 minutes. The next thing I remember, I woke to the sound of cloth being rustled around. I sprang to an upright position, but it was literally too dark to even see within a few feet in front of me. After I flipped on the bedside light, there I saw somebody dressed in all black with a hood over his head, probably 6'5", 250 pounds, rummaging through my bag. I screamed at the top of my lungs, and in response, he fled the room. He had stolen my wallet and my watch, but he had also created a lasting memory that only digs deeper into a very large childhood fear of mine. I have never heard a story about anything like this on the news or anything,
So for something like this to happen to a person like me, somebody who had such an odd, specific fear as a child, was simply catastrophic to me. When I was 17, I started to develop some beef with my dad, who's a huge hothead. Tensions would grow worse through the years, and it got to the point that I would commonly have to leave for the night after getting into huge fights with my dad about personal things that I won't talk about. Sometimes I would stay at a friend's house or check into a hotel. It was May 9th, 2015. I was 21 years old, and after another huge scene back at home with my dad, I had to get out of there for my own good. I checked into a nearby hotel, the Quality Inn and Suites. It was literally half a mile from my house. I'd be throwing away a little less than $100 for it, but I had nowhere else to go. It was early this time around. Usually these outbursts happen around nighttime. It was like 4 o'clock, so I decided to just hang out by the outdoor pool and clear my head. It was funny, I was the only one around in this hotel. The pool was empty, the hallways were empty, even the lobby was empty, except for, of course, the desk worker. Then again, it was only May, and it wasn't like we lived in some huge vacation destination of a town. My room was in the middle of the hall on the second floor. I had no idea why they'd given me that room, since it seemed like I was one of the only few people staying in the hotel. I hung out in my room after the pool for a bit. That's when there was a very light tapping on the door. I waited for someone to yell housekeeping, but they never did. Therefore, I ignored it. And to my surprise, even though I had the do not disturb sign on the door handle, I heard the beep of the lock on the door, and then I heard the door slowly opening. I called out, no thank you, not right now. I couldn't see the employee at the door because there was a wall that blocked the view of the door from the bed. There was a pause, and I repeated myself, growing a bit curious. Suddenly, the door slammed shut. It actually startled me. I got up to actually go follow them and tell them that that was rude. When I stepped into the hall, I looked to my right. Nobody. I looked to my left, and at the end of the hall, I saw the right leg of a woman turning the left corner further down the hall before disappearing. How did she get there so fast, I wondered. I ran down to the end of the hall, and that's when I heard another door closing. When I turned the corner, nobody. Just maybe 20 closed, unoccupied hotel doors. I was so confused and honestly a bit freaked out. I went down to the front desk to complain about the rude employee. The woman at the counter said that must be Rosa. She said she would question her about slamming the door later on. I thanked the woman and then went out to eat at the nearby TGI Fridays down the road. When I got back to the room, I was on the phone talking to my mom, who said that I shouldn't come back because my dad was still super pissed. I entered my room and told her how depressed I was with all this fighting bullshit, and she understood. When I hung up, it was only 8 o'clock. I wanted the night to be over. I brushed my teeth, watched a little TV, and went to sleep at around 9 o'clock. I awoke to a noise. At first, I didn't know what it was. I rubbed my eyes, sat up, and listened. You have to let them in. There was somebody standing at the left edge of my bed, towering over me. I screamed and felt like throwing up at the same time. It was a dreadful, horrifying feeling. The person then grabbed around my throat and started repeating the words, "You piece of shit." It was an older woman with a weak grip. I was able to escape easily. I ran to the door of the room. I heard her following me, but she stopped at the door when I ran down the halls to the front desk. The woman at the front desk admitted that one of the employees had lost one of her master keys that had access to all of the rooms in the hotel, something they were obligated to report to the head of the hotel. I was furious. Of course, I got a refund, gave some info to the cops, and then went home that night, where my dad actually showed something close to sympathy after I explained what happened. Ever since, I've actually never had to leave the house for the night, and I hope it stays that way. Oh yeah, and I have absolutely no idea whatever became of that crazy nutcase woman that tried to kill me.
Wow. I think that last story has been my favorite one so far out of the ones we've listened to. And that creepy, you have to let them in. That actually sent chills down my spine. Okay, that was Mr. Nightmare. So now, as promised, I'm going to move on to Corpse Husband, who I've never heard of. So I'll be experiencing him for the first time. Killer Grandma. That's sure what it sounds like, isn't it, Mats? Okay, Mats, you're gonna watch one more and then go to sleep. I know it's 4 a.m. over there. Yeah, I completely understand that, man. Have you guys enjoyed this so far? I hope you guys have. I know I have. Okay, I'm gonna choose between 10 true creepy paranormal hotel stories or 4 real horrifying Ouija board and paranormal stories. Those are your options. And I kind of chose those two to choose from on purpose because I'm a huge paranormal person. I do believe in ghosts and paranormal and stuff like that. So your choices for Corpse Husband are 4 real horrifying Ouija board and paranormal stories or 10 true creepy paranormal hotel stories. Ouija board. Yeah, I figured that one would do it for you. Okay. Now this is the longest video we've reacted to so far. This one's a little over 21 minutes. So here we go. 4 real horrifying Ouija board and paranormal stories from Corpse Husband.
This story is going to make me sound crazy, but here goes. Before this incident, I had never used a Ouija board in my life. Growing up, I had an aunt who would dabble with Ouija boards and the paranormal, and my mother always advised me to never touch one. One day, my partner decided it would be fun to buy a Ouija board and use it with a few friends. I wouldn't say we were complete skeptics, but I don't think any of us were really expecting anything wild to happen. We went on the internet and looked up how to safely use one and planned out what kind of questions we should ask. So we run to Toys R Us and we pick up a Hasbro Ouija board. We didn't really want to use it at our house, so we gathered up a couple friends and I drove to a state park a few towns over. We start to head up the hiking trail and find a good spot to lay the board down. We begin going through the motions of asking if there was a spirit. Indicate, the planchette moved with ease. It's a really strange, powerful feeling when it glides across the board. The planchette it came with was a thick hunk of plastic, and there was quite a bit of friction when trying to intentionally move it on the board. We were all stunned at the fact that the damn thing was working. We asked if it was a good spirit. Of course, the planchette moved over to no. We then asked if it wanted to harm us. The planchette moves over to yes. My partner asked how it would go about doing this. The board began to spell out ENGINE, engine. We see a group of hikers coming up in our general direction and we carelessly put the board away without properly saying goodbye. We hike back down to another secluded area and decide to try again. This time, we come into contact with a spirit who claims to be a 6-year-old boy who died sometime in the 1800s. Now, he seemed nice at first, and that was until he told our friend he wanted him to die so that he would have someone to play with. We decide to ask the board questions only we would know the answers to. Each person asking the question took their hands off the planchette to be certain. The board got every damn question correct, and that's when I started to feel a bit uneasy. I honestly couldn't believe it. The board then proceeded to spell out my name. I was confused as to what that meant. Soon after, it began to rain, so we told the board that we had to go, and asked if it would help us bring the planchette down to goodbye. It complied. We all begin walking back to my car when I noticed this woman sitting in an SUV next to mine, just watching us. Her gaze never really left, and it kind of rubbed me the wrong way. We all get in my car and I go to start it, and the engine doesn't turn over. It was almost as if the battery was dead, but my accessories still worked. I began to shit bricks. I hadn't had my car for very long and it never gave me trouble. It seemed like way too big of a coincidence. I look over at that woman and put my window down and ask her if she has jumper cables. She reaches behind her and pulls them out as if she had them ready. We get out of my car and hook them up when my partner's friend's phone rings from a number he doesn't recognize. He picks it up and it was someone just asking if we were okay. He chalked it up to the fact that a drug dealer previously had the number, so he got a lot of unknown calls. Weird. We start chatting with this woman and thank her for letting us use the jumper cables. Turns out she has the same name as me, which the board had previously spelled out. Was this perhaps a warning? She tells us that she works as an ultrasound technician at a local hospital. We ask her what she's doing in the parking lot, to which she explained that she was waiting for her weed dealer. Medical marijuana is legal in my state, so I was a bit perplexed but didn't think anything of it. I was just grateful she was helping us. I go to try and start the car and it still doesn't work. It just kind of rolls for a few feet in the parking lot before shutting off. At this point, it's getting dark and I begin to come to terms with the fact that I'll have to call a tow truck. Our friends ended up getting picked up and my partner stayed with me as we waited for the tow truck to arrive. We told the woman she could leave since she was still weirdly waiting with us. She offered for us to sit in her car while we wait because it was raining again. I asked her if she could pop the trunk so I could sit on the ledge, but she told me the trunk didn't open. So, stupidly, I get in her car with my partner. The weird woman made a joke about disabling her child safety locks on the back so I won't think she's trying to keep us here. That rubbed me the wrong way. She starts telling me that maybe I should just leave my car there and offered to give me a ride home. I politely decline. Then she tells me that she has a friend whose husband works for VW and that he could surely fix my car for a good price. She calls up her friend, and because we were in the car, it was quiet enough that my partner and I could faintly hear the other line. She explains the car problem and asks how much it would be to fix it. We hear on the other line the person ask if I'm a boy or girl. The woman says girl, and the man on the line simply said good. Nope, we get out of the car and tell her the tow truck should be there soon and thank her for the help. We gave her the Ouija board and told her she could keep it because we didn't want it anymore. I still wonder what she did with it. She kept trying to get me to give her my phone number and kept saying she would come with me to get my car fixed from her friend. Eventually, she fucked off. We ended up getting back home late. Told the AAA guy how we were fucking around with a Ouija board and met the weird lady afterwards. He said he wouldn't have picked us up if he had known that. The next day, my partner opened up his text that he sent out when we were waiting for the tow. In a conversation with his mother, the text box had, "Yes, Satan, yes," written out. The message wasn't sent, but he sure as hell didn't write that. The next day, I called the hospital to see if that woman even worked there like she had claimed. Nope. They transferred me to 2 different floors and there was no ultrasound technician working there with my name. To this day, I still don't know how to explain what happened that night. And I'm sure as hell never going to use a Ouija board again. Also, the dealer the woman claimed to be waiting for never even showed up. So what she was doing that night and what her intentions were, I'll never know.
Wow.
This is a story I swear I wouldn't speak of again because it still haunts all of my family to this day. This happened when I was age 9 and I'm now 16. My aunt, Sherry, wanted to live on her own with her kids. She had always lived with my grandparents. She moved to the south side of our city into this huge house. I always got the creeps from this house when I went to visit. She lived there for about 2 weeks when the weird shit started happening. At first it was toys and other stuff going missing, then mysteriously showing up in different places. Then it came to stuff being thrown from upstairs to downstairs. Being that young, I honestly thought it was my older cousins just messing with me. But every damn time I went to look upstairs, they weren't there. I started to go over to the house more and more because my aunt always babysat me for my parents. I remember this night specifically because it was the night my aunt truly knew something was going on in the house. Myself and a couple of my female cousins were upstairs listening to music and dancing when one of them told me to run the house phone downstairs. But as soon as I got down to the bottom of the stairs, my aunt came running to the staircase with a baseball bat, pulling me back up the stairs. Then she took the phone from me, calling her oldest son, Dan. Dan came over and looked around the house. However, they never did tell me what happened until I got older. My aunt said someone was staring at her through the window. The longer she lived there, the worse it got. But she stayed because she couldn't afford to move out. Whatever was in her house stayed on one floor at a time. There had to be more than one. Sometimes it was on the top floor, the main, then the basement. We would all stay in one room together because we were too scared to sleep separately. That was until someone else moved into the house with us. Kevin. Kevin and his baby daughter moved into the room that's right outside the attic door on the top floor. The worst room to sleep in. We tried to warn him. One night, some seriously scary shit was going on with high-pitched screams and shit being thrown at us. Kevin ran downstairs without thinking while his baby was sleeping in that room alone. Everything went silent until we heard the high-pitched crying and screaming come from the room upstairs. Kevin ran up with my aunt and my dad. The door seriously would not fucking open. Kevin moved out the very next day with his daughter. Finally, things calmed down until the night of my parents' wedding. My aunt was going to babysit me and I wanted to have a bath, so she told me not to lock the door in case someone needs the bathroom or something. The only thing I remember is starting the water and getting in. Then I woke up in a full tub and someone banging on the door. I grabbed my towel and opened the door to see a paramedic, police officer, and my aunt crying. She yelled at me for locking the door, but that's the thing, I didn't lock the door. My aunt finally decided to try and leave, but she needed to go back and grab blankets and clothes. It was nighttime and she went through the back door. She had this weird feeling like someone was watching her. As she got closer to the side gate, she stopped and looked through the cracks between the panels. She saw someone crawling out the basement window and standing tall watching her. She took off and yelled at my grandmother in the van to start the car. After that, we arranged for a priest to come to our house. Father James was very skeptical at first, but he came anyways because he saw fright in our eyes. He set up candles in each room and he told us he felt something evil. Much to my liking, I got stuck staying in the fucking room upstairs at the end of the hall with my two cousins Dan and Casey. Well, Dan thought it would be a good idea to say, "If anyone's in here, kick the bed Casey is sitting on." Not even a minute later, the bed was sent across the room. Father James told my aunt to leave the house immediately. The house was torn down a year later. Some seriously messed up shit happened in that house that I can't explain. I just know that it wasn't normal. Anyways, that's my story. Hopefully it helps some people in some way. This first event takes place in 2011, so I was 17 years old when this happened. I had always thought paranormal things were cool and I had always wanted a Ouija board. So my friend, we'll call her Mary, got me a Ouija board from Spencer's as a Christmas/birthday present. We used it for shits and giggles a few times, but nothing really significant happened. Until that summer a few months later when we went up to Mary's grandpa's house. A small house in a slightly woodsy area about 5 to 8 minutes from the closest town. We went up there with another one of my friends who we'll call Kayla. You know how you can walk into a house and it just feels wrong? That's how I felt sometimes, and I'd been in the house several times before when Mary and I had camped in the yard. Regardless, Mary, Kayla, and I settled in a small room Mary would sleep in when she was a child. We turned on the floor lamp, sat on her bed, and took out the Ouija board. The placement of the three of us is slightly significant, so I'll paint a small picture. Imagine a twin bed with 3 girls sitting in the middle in a triangle shape. Kayla and I sat next to each other with Mary in front of us. The board was between us with the letters facing Kayla and I correctly, where Mary had to read them upside down. This is significant because of the lamp in the door. The lamp was behind and to the right of Mary, right next to the door and outlet. Now, on to what happened that evening. As the three of us placed our fingers lightly on the glow-in-the-dark oracle, we didn't really designate one person to ask the questions. Mary asked if there was anyone with us, and the oracle moved very slowly at first. Then it strongly slid to yes. We took turns asking questions, most of which I can't remember. But Mary and I asked questions that only she and I knew so we could make sure Kayla wasn't doing anything to it. We then asked it what it was and if it was a ghost. It said no, so we asked if it was a demon. It said yes to that. Mary asked what its name was and it spelled out O-M-A-Z. Omaz? We all looked at each other in confusion as we tried to figure out exactly how to pronounce the supposed name as the oracle moved to yes yet again. Mary asks it why it's there and it spells out Y-O-U. All three of us are confused at that point, so Mary asked it which one of us. The oracle spelled out Y-O-U yet again. Kayla sarcastically asks if Mary is its property. The oracle moves to yes, and I remember the odd look on Mary's face. Kayla then jokingly says she's going to touch its property, and the oracle slides to no fairly quickly. Kayla then started sarcastically chanting something like, "Oh, we're touching your Mary." We both place our hands on Mary. As we're laughing, the oracle flies off the board onto the wall behind Kayla and I. Usually, small plastic things such as an oracle ricochet off the walls if they're thrown, right? The oracle slid down the wall. The three of us look at the oracle, and I'm the one who eventually picks it up and places it back on the board. We don't touch the oracle and just sit there and talk, and then Kayla states that if the oracle moves on its own, she's gone. Mary, Kayla, and I talk for a bit until the lamp turns off. Mary screams and launches towards Kayla and I as we both scream with her. We huddle for probably 2 seconds before we run out of the room and into the living room. After that, we all jump into my car and run to the store to get salt and white candles. Where we went only had 2 white candles, so we had to get the rest in yellow. When we got back to the house, we poured salt in a circle around an air mattress, lit the candles in a circle, and sat there. We didn't go to sleep until we saw light outside the next morning. We looked in the room to retrieve the board and to see why the lamp went out and discovered that the bulb was fine and the switch hadn't been turned. The lamp was unplugged with the cord laying a little away from the outlet, as if someone had yanked it out. We have no idea how this could have happened accidentally, since there were no animals around. After that, we decided to get rid of the Ouija board. We ended up only getting rid of the oracle though because we couldn't find the board. To this day, we have no idea where the board is, but Mary and I could point out the exact spot we tossed the oracle. I think this is a problem because we never said goodbye. Mary and I are still very good friends, and she helped me piece together the story as I couldn't remember some details. Even today, every now and then, we, more so Mary than myself, experience things that probably shouldn't happen. I can't believe I'm typing this. Please, anyone listening, bear with me. I hate telling this story. I've been having really bad nightmares the last few days, waking up sweating and crying. Not directly related, but I guess there's no better time than today to share. And before anyone talks bad, I already know my whole account sounds paranormal cliche, which is why I hate sharing it. But in my memory, this is the creepiest of the many events I have endured. And this is not some fake story. This happened to me and my family witnessed. I was in 5th grade, whatever age 5th graders are. Incredibly happy time in my life, best of my childhood. My mom and I recently moved from the high Sierra Nevadas to live with my eldest aunt in her old Victorian 15 minutes from San Francisco. I have since learned my aunt had experienced some crazy demonic shit in her 20s, and at the time, her 50s, she was deeply religious, going to church every day. She rotated between the Catholic Church and the non-denom Christian Church. Anyway, Mom and I had lived off the grid so long I was way behind in my Catholic studies. I enrolled in our local Catholic school, but I was not recognized as a full member since I had never been through catechism. My aunt insisted I be baptized. My whole family came out to watch me be baptized at the Christian church, and I got all dressed up, and afterwards the church gave me a handmade wooden crucifix. The baptism itself went uneventful in my memory. Do you denounce Satan and all his works? Yes, typical baptism. Pastor walked me into the warm pool, complete submersion. The only thing odd was afterward, many family and strangers came up to me laughing. From their perspective, I had gasped loudly enough that they thought I must have slipped into the pool and nearly drowned. But I never remembered it that way. That night, we had a small family celebration at our house. I can't remember being happier in all my short life. My mom helped me nail my new crucifix above my bedroom door. Bedtime. My bedroom was a smallish room attached to the basement. My mom and aunt had the 2 upstairs master bedrooms, and my 16-year-old cousin had the 1 small bedroom on the main floor. My other 19-year-old cousin was sleeping on the couch for the night. My mom tucked me in after we cross above my gigantic antique wooden armoire that came with the house. It was too huge and heavy to move, or my aunt would have had it in her room. No one could figure out a way to get it out without dismantling it. God knows how it ever made its gigantic ass in there in the first place. I fell asleep. At some point, I woke up to a massive earthquake. The whole room was shaking violently. I tried to make it to the doorway, but everything was shaking so hard I had to drop and cover. Pieces of the ceiling fell on and around me. The massive armoire moved a good 3 to 4 feet from the wall, and the doors swung open and closed. My cross was forced out of the wall and landed on the floor. When the shaking stopped, I ran upstairs. I was screaming for my mom. My cousin jumped up off the couch and thought someone was breaking in. By now, the whole family is gathered in the living room, and no one but me felt any earthquake. They told me to calm down and that it was just a nightmare. I screamed at them, "No, no nightmare, this just happened." I told them pieces of the ceiling fell on me. When they all walked me back to bed, they saw the room. Cross on the floor, ceiling chunks everywhere. Now my older cousin is pissed at me, accusing me of pranking them. I was crying and they didn't believe me until they tried to put the armoire back in place. No matter how much they tried, it would not budge. It was huge and heavy, and they realized that no 75-pound person could have possibly moved it that far away from the wall. They collectively could not move it back. So that was the last night anyone ever slept in that room. My aunt had the priest come a few days later. I don't remember much after, except no one was ever permitted to sleep in that room again. Hey everyone, if you enjoyed this video, you're bound to like what my friend Dark5 just uploaded. 5 real-life Ouija board nightmares.
Wow. That's definitely been the creepiest compilation I've listened to so far. Wow. Yeah, stuff like that about Ouija boards and the paranormal, it always interests me. It always has. All right, Mats, I'm glad you came. I'm glad that you got to experience this. Oh yeah, man, no problem. I know it's really late over there. It's early morning. So, yeah. So, how many people are still here besides? I know Jonathan and Zach D are here. Tim, are you still here? Or are you not? Well, guys, this has been fun. And truth be told, I'm getting kind of tired of standing. Don't get me wrong, I'm not cutting the stream off right now. But I know I said I was going to do Unit 522 because he's another one of my favorites. But instead, I think I'm going to save the best for last, in my opinion. And I hope Tim is still here. Tim, I hope you're still in here. Of course, I don't think you are. But this is Tim and mine's. This is our favorite YouTuber out of all the scary story people, and it's Darkness Prevails. So I purposely was going to save him for last. So here we go. And if you guys have never heard Darkness Prevails, he's my favorite. The way he conducts himself, the way he delivers everything, very, very good. And there's one compilation of stories from him that I'm going to play on purpose. Because as you guys know, I work at Wendy's. And I've worked there ever since I graduated from high school 8 years ago. I've been there for 8 years. And he has a compilation called 10 Wendy's Horror Stories. And yes, I've listened to it. Honestly, I have. I know I said I wasn't going to do any ones that I've heard, but too good not to it's too good not to share since I work at Wendy's. So, you are a fan of Darkness Prevails. Yes, that is his catchphrase. This world is a strange one. And Tim, I don't think you're in here. I think the only two people in here are Zach D and you, Jonathan. But hopefully Tim comes back. And yeah, Darkness Prevails is our favorite one. So here we go. And this is the longest one that we've reacted to, the longest video. This is 44 minutes long, and it's from Darkness Prevails, 10 True Scary Wendy's Stories. So sit back, relax, and enjoy.
According to Washington Star News, this employee was caught adding his own flavor to Wendy's chili for years. Do I have your mouth watering yet? You're watching Darkness Prevails, the best channel to share your creepy true stories with the world, because this world is a strange one. Most of us who have worked jobs ended up working our first job at a fast food place. Nothing wrong with that. It's easy to get on board and easy to learn. But it is not an easy job. Dealing with customers, cleaning the mess of a place, trying to survive. The following stories are allegedly true stories of the horrors that have happened to people who have either worked at or went to Wendy's. Don't let that ginger near your beef. Remember, you can share your scary true stories with me using the links in the description. I'm looking for creepy MySpace stories. Real quick, here are my favorite early comments from my previous full video. Creepy Deep Sea Discoveries. Free Liberty says, the seas are deep like my mind. If that's how it worked, I'd be dealing with a shallow puddle. Marissa says, have you ever been in an intimate relationship with a toaster? It's pretty hot. Sparks fly. That's only if you're forking it wrong. Sofo Womo says, let's get deep. I'm way ahead of you, Soflo Antonio. The Cocker Spaniel says, this scars me more than my grades. Sticks and stones, my friend, but grades live on forever. And Matt Bowman says, I have 100 creepy stories. Darkness Prevails wants to know your location. That's where you're wrong, because I already know where you are. Anyway, let's find out where's the beef by diving into these scary Wendy's stories. Number 1. Wendy's by the Woods. Submitted by Jensen. I used to work at Wendy's. I'd come home after a 7 or 8 hour shift, depending on whether or not they decided they needed me for the day. Then I'd take a half-hour shower to get the smell of grease off of my skin. Not much is as discomforting as the feeling of sticky old grease on your skin. My dogs loved it though. I must have smelled like heaven to the two of them whenever I came home. Anyway, the location of our Wendy's was kind of strange. We were at the end of a road, just before it bends into a sharp turn. We bordered the road on one side, then straight up woods on the other. The town I live in is quite small, and there aren't many people who live there. So, our so-called city was more or less a dozen buildings spaced out widely on a 2-mile road. Most of the buildings bordered woods like ours, so I never thought much of it. Having been raised in that town, it wasn't weird to me. The only time I second-guessed how close we were to forests was when I stayed at a cousin's place in Houston, Texas. It made my small town seem smaller. Anyway, I worked the closing shift. Our Wendy's stayed open till 11 p.m., and I usually worked from 3 to 11. Sometimes I'd be called in early or dismissed early, but I was assigned those hours. I would drive my POS Cobalt to the restaurant and begin my greasy regimen. That night wasn't any different at first. I clocked in, cooked up my patties while the manager barked orders, and the other full-timer made fun of her uptight attitude when she wasn't within hearing. His name was Dave, a pretty name for such a pain of a manager. It was 10:35 that night, and we hadn't seen a customer in the past 2 hours. So we were getting on with our closing duties. I scraped up the grills, fished out remnants from the deep fryers, then went to help Dave with the dishes. Dishes was the worst part of the job, so I wasn't about to let someone have to do that alone. I never did know why we had just one person to do the dishes, to sweep and to mop the kitchen and lobby, and to scrub and pick up the bathrooms all at the end of the day. Poor guy had the worst job out of all of us. I had just finished spraying off the last fryer when Dave and I heard Aura scream. We'd never heard her do that before. We weren't even sure if it was her voice. The two of us began laughing and made our way over. No doubt in our minds that it was just a spider or something. Aura was at the drive-thru window with the headset on. She had taken over drive-thru duties while we focused on closing. "You okay?" I asked, trying to force down my smile. Without even looking at me, still staring out the drive-thru window and keeping both hands on it to make sure it didn't open, she said to me, "There's someone outside." "Is it a drive-thru order?" Dave wondered. "No, I mean someone came from the woods. They ran right up to the window. They tried to climb inside while I was right here," she explained nervously. "That's weird. Do you want me to go outside and shoo the guy away?" I asked. "No, just stay inside." "Probably just some prankster," Dave assumed. "Someone desperate for some YouTube views." I asked Aura if I could go ahead and lock up the lobby just in case, and she said yes. I think we would all feel a bit more comfortable if the place was locked up tight. I was seconds away from walking out from behind the counter when the door rang. Someone had just entered. Now, the front of the building was almost entirely glass. If someone had pulled up, we'd have seen their car. But we'd seen nothing, and at that point, I was too nervous to leave the counter. I took a moment to gather my courage, and I nodded at Dave and Aura, who were both silent and looking at me in suspense. Then I stepped through the door and out into the lobby. It was empty. I walked slowly over to the left entrance, the one that had rang before. I saw no one outside or inside the building, so I locked it and was about to walk over to lock the other when I saw the wet print on the floor and dirt. I looked back over the lobby, but something else caught my eye. Someone else. He was standing at the lobby door I had just come from, meaning he had to have been hiding behind it or in the bathroom down that corridor. He was disheveled, a dirty mess, and his jaw appeared to be grotesquely lodged out of place. In his hand was a metal pipe, rusted beyond the ages. He was looking at me, one of his eyes twitching rapidly. There was a slow-moving red liquid on his cheek, flowing from 3 parallel gashes in his face. He tried to talk, but the sound that came out was jumbled and unintelligible. "Sir, please put that away," I said with a stutter. He walked toward me, then raised the pipe in the air above his head, as if to say, "You mean this?" or trying to threaten me with it. I couldn't tell. He stumbled suddenly, bringing him inches from me when Dave came out of the lobby door and put him in a chokehold. The man dropped the pipe and fell to the ground unconscious in seconds. He had passed out, not from the chokehold. We called an ambulance and the police, and they towed away the stranger. No charges were placed, though. There was no need to, after we heard his story and the report. The man was a homeless man. He had been holed up in those woods for the past few years, never really bothering anyone. That night, though, he had been attacked by, I kid you not, a cougar. Clawed his face up real good, and broke his jaw clean out of place. He even lost a few teeth. But he was able to make it to our store where, instead of helping him, we attacked him. I felt so bad for the guy, but at least he was okay. He got the help he needed. Afterwards, management felt it appropriate to install some security cameras inside and out of the place. And, to be honest, I'm a bit more wary of the woods than I was before. Number 2. Why I Quit Working at Wendy's. Submitted by AJ. This is a story about the worst job I've ever had. I worked at Wendy's. You know, the place that brags about fresh, never frozen beef that somehow still gives quite a few people the runs. Yeah, I worked as the cashier for the front counter. And the people I had to serve, Jesus Christ, it was the worst. But it still wasn't as bad as it was about to be. We had a certain boy. He must have been 17 or so, but he was about 6.5 feet tall and easily over 200 pounds, most of which wasn't muscle either. He was a sight to behold, as well as a strange person to have around you. He would never order food. He would just walk into the store, sit down, and stare at random people. I always assumed that he was autistic. Seriously, I'm not trying to be rude, I just figured there was something different about him, something off with his social skills. Well, the guy started doing something weird. He'd blatantly dig through the trash bins in the lobby, pulling out food and trash and tossing it all into the floor indiscriminately. Now, I assumed at first he had been digging up old food and eating it, but he wasn't. Well, I was the lucky guy that had to go out there and tell him he had to stop that. When he didn't listen, I tapped him on the shoulder and said it louder. He stopped, stood straight up, towering over me, and he began to cry. Never have I went from irritated to sad so fast. He walked out of the store, and I thought that was that. It was around 6:30 when I was told to go home for the day, if I wanted to, as it wasn't very busy. Of course, I took them up on the offer. I clocked out right away and began to walk to my car. It was that time of year when it was already completely dark by 6 o'clock, so it was a bit eerie walking to my car. I got to the door and was trying to find my car key when someone tapped me on the shoulder. I was startled. I literally jumped, dropping my keys like an idiot as I turned around to see who it was. It was the boy, the big guy who had been trash cans earlier, on his face. A look that said he hadn't forgotten what I did to him. He had his right hand up in a fist, palm facing upward. He was holding something. He looked me in the eye, then went to his hand. The fist opened, and there was a blade in it, a butterfly knife. The blade was out and ready. Where in the world did he get that, I wondered. I'd only seen those things in movies. Instantly, my heart sank. I backed up against the car door. "What are you doing?" I said, then slowly leaned down and grabbed my keys. He just kept staring at the knife in his hand, like he still wasn't sure if he really wanted to use it. Luckily, it gave me plenty of time. I found my car keys, unlocked the door, and sped away. Even when I was on the road, when I looked back, he was still there staring at the knife in his hand in the parking lot. He hadn't moved or shifted even a millimeter. The sight sent chills down my spine. I reported it to the police, but they did nothing after talking to the family, because they promised to keep him under a watchful eye. But he was back at Wendy's the very next week, and he was staring at me now, just me, sitting in the lobby and waiting. After 3 days of this and more terrible customers, I'd had enough. I quit and didn't go back. I haven't seen the guy since, and hopefully he doesn't come looking for me. Number 3. The Worst Part-Time Job by M. Teresa. I think most of us have some juicy stories about how bad our first jobs were. But for a time, I could almost look back upon my first job dearly. Almost. Because something happened there. Something happened that made me want to never go back. I mean, sure, it wasn't technically the place itself that had wronged me. But when something bad happens to a person, they associate everything from that memory to that memory. Just thinking about going back to Wendy's makes me nauseous. Yeah, my first job was working the drive-thru at my local Wendy's. It was honestly an easy job. Unlike the front of the store, which had to deal with people on a more personal level, I had to deal with people who didn't really care about you, as long as they got their food accurately and quickly. They just wanted to be done and gone, so there weren't a whole lot of jerks like I expected. Not to mention, I met a lot of cool people. It was there that I met my coworker and best friend. We all called her Nanny. Well, it was also where I met my manager, Edward. Edward was uptight, arrogant, cruel. No matter how hard you worked, he'd find something to put you down about. Did you clean up the lobby without being told, faster and better than anyone had before in that restaurant? Well, it took you 2 seconds too long to greet that specific customer. Did you get out every order in under 2 minutes in the drive-thru somehow? Well, he didn't like your quick attitude. Screw that guy, especially after what he did to me. It was a Friday, and I was ready to clock out that night, meet up with Nanny, and sleep in. We were closing up the store when Edward asked the other worker that evening if he wanted to go ahead and go home, leaving just me and Edward there. I rolled my eyes, knowing there'd just be plenty of extra hell for me since I'd be alone with him, and he'd probably had something to chew me out about. When the other guy left, Edward walked up to me as I mopped the lobby. "Take off your headset. Come here," he demanded, beckoning me with his finger. I sighed, leaned the mop on the wall, then did as he told me. He was the manager after all, and I'd be on my way home soon. He led me to the back where the sink and paper products were, and he pointed at the floor. "What do you think that is?" he said, sounding absolutely pissed. I followed his finger and looked under one of the shelves. Sticking out from under it was a piece of ages-old, moldy, disgusting beef patty. Apparently, one of the employees snuck a burger and dropped a big piece of it back there. "It's a patty. Do you want me to pick it up?" I asked, ready to get this over with. "No," he crossed his arms. "I want you to eat it." What the hell did you just say? He must have been out of his mind, I thought. "Eat it. Hands and knees. You're not clocking out until you do." There's something wrong with you. I'm not doing that. I'd never do that for anyone, let alone you. I was getting mad now. "You're not leaving until you eat that. Get down." I rolled my eyes and threw my name tag at his feet. "Screw this, Ed. I'm not doing that crap. You're messed up in the head." I began to walk past him, but as I brushed by, he elbowed me right in the diaphragm. I hit the sink hard and fell on my knees, coughing and wheezing. "Eat it. Then you can go home. I don't care if it's not yours. Someone's gonna eat it." It was then that the situation really hit me. Edward wasn't right. He was angry, and he was focusing all his rage on me in an unforgivably inhumane way. I was so scared and angry. I didn't even know then that I was crying. "Are you gonna do it? Or am I gonna have to hit you again? You look real nice." I crawled toward the patty. I vomited in my throat and swallowed down the bile. I began shaking my head. "Just get up," he said. And when I didn't get up fast enough, he snapped at me. "Get up!" I looked at him, his face blurred by my watery eyes. He rubbed his eyes and I took the moment to run past him. Oddly enough, he didn't fight me. He let me go. I ran to my car, a crying wreck, and I drove away. I immediately called Nanny to tell her what happened, and I never went back to that Wendy's, or any other Wendy's for that matter. I didn't alert the police, but I did tell the upper management of Wendy's, and I got Edward fired. Maybe I should have gotten him thrown in jail. I don't know. I just want to forget about it. I hope Edward got the help he needed, or the punishment he deserved. Number 4. My Loyal Customer, submitted by Random Rando. It's true what they say, you know. Working in customer service is the worst, especially when you work fast food, dealing with people on a second-by-second basis. Plus, you always get regulars, people who just keep coming in, same time, often the same days. I've personally never done that, so I don't understand why people would want to come so often to a specific place that they try to make friends with the coworkers. But whatever. I don't really mind that. What I do mind was one such customer who kept coming to my job. Not for the service, not for the food. He came for me. He started coming to our Wendy's in southern Missouri in the fall of 2015. It was a normal, especially cold day, and I was just ready to go home. He walked up, and instead of placing an order, he seemed to catch himself and looked at me straight in the eye. The guy was wearing a cowboy hat and was easily in his early 50s, with a thick brown mustache and a layer of gray on top of it. "Well, darling," he said in a heavy southern accent, "I didn't know anyone as purty as you worked here." It's the kind of thing you don't really know how to reply, so I just asked, Hi, what can we get you? Oh, don't be rude, honey. He somehow smiled wider than before. Did you hear what I said? Yes, sir, I said to him. Thank you. That was all I could think to say. Ain't nothing. How about you get me one of them milkshakes? Speaking of which, yours look pretty good. Did he really just say that? I thought. Literally the cringiest thing I've ever heard in my life. Not to mention it was borderline sexual harassment. We didn't even have milkshakes, unless he meant the Frosties. Well, a while after that painful exchange, I was happy to go home after the longest shift I'd had there. But at the time, I didn't know that that wasn't the last I'd see of the weird old cowboy. Because he would start coming in every day, he'd make sure I was the one that took his order. And the one time my manager said I was too busy to talk, he knocked over the straw dispenser and walked out. Fantastic. Creeper Man also had anger issues. At one point, I had a few days off in a row. When I got back to work, I asked my coworkers if they saw the guy, but they answered that they hadn't seen him once. I thought maybe that was the end of it, but literally minutes later, he came through the door. Apparently, he only came in on days he saw me come to work. How often was he watching me? And where did he go after I left the store? It was then that I started getting creeped out. Finally, there came a day when he was waiting on me to clock out on a closing shift. The moment I walked out the Wendy's doors, he came up to me with that big, freaky grin. My bigger male coworkers had to scare him away, and they walked me to my car. It's been a couple of years since I've seen him, and I'm hoping that that was the last of it. But let me say it's quite terrifying when you meet someone who targets you and doesn't have any idea what the word boundaries means. Number 5. Don't settle with your first job. Submitted by Craig. When I was 16, my family moved from Seattle, Washington down to Oklahoma. It was there that I started working at Wendy's. I think everyone's first job is fast food. If you're lucky, you'll dodge that bullet and not have to work somewhere as risky, underpaid, and utterly terrifying. Well, Wendy's was my first. Back then, I was a very shy guy. It didn't help that I was just 5'5", and literally every other guy was a giant over me. It took me a while to gather the courage to speak properly to customers, but eventually I got the hang of it, and came out of my shell. There was a guy I worked with that I tried to stay away from, though. Let's say his name for this story was Brian. He was a big dude, 6 foot tall, but especially lanky. He was the kind of guy that thought having tiny abs, just because he had starved himself, made him ripped. He was cringy, and Brian was a bully. He'd make fun of me for my height, try to pick fights with me, because he was overconfident enough to think he could beat anybody. One day, Brian came to work with a nasty-looking black eye, but we all knew not to mention it, otherwise we wouldn't hear the end of it, or he'd try to start something stupid. Little did we know, Brian came ready for that and more. One of our more mouthy trainees, who had only started a few days ago, cracked a joke at him, said that he was all talk, and it was probably a little girl who gave him that black eye. Well, Brian shoved him up against the fryers, then pulled a gun on him. The staff saw, the customers saw, and it became insanely quiet. From where I was standing, I could tell that Brian was crying. There was a lot more going on with Brian than we knew, which explained the attitude. That day he had snapped. Luckily for us and the new trainee, after a few moments he realized he had gone too far. He shoved the gun back in his pants and ran out of the store. He was later arrested, and as far as I know, he's in jail or juvie. He was 16 when this happened. I just know that I don't want to see him again. but I do hope he finds some help. Number 6. Wendy's Creep.
Okay, guys. Not gonna lie, I'm getting kind of tired of standing. My back and legs are starting to hurt. So I think I'm gonna end this stream in a couple of minutes. But this is definitely the longest stream that I've ever done. And I definitely appreciate everyone who decided to join me. I definitely am happy about how the stream turned out. I'm glad that the audio on my laptop was loud enough, hopefully loud enough to where you guys could hear it. And before I go, I want to hear what out of all the stories that we listened to, what was your favorite? What was your favorite story, and who was your favorite storyteller out of Darkness Prevails, Mr. Nightmare, and Corpse Husband? You think you're here, or are you? Well, I hope you are. But yeah, guys, what was your favorite scary story, and who was your favorite YouTuber that told the story? My personal favorite, honestly, and you probably wouldn't expect me to say this, because I've kind of showed favoritism towards Darkness Prevails since he's my favorite. But I actually was really creeped out by Mr. Nightmare's, that last hotel story that he did where the lady whispers, you're going to have to let them in and all that. And I actually really liked Corpse Husband. I liked the Ouija board stories. Those were scary as heck. I got a little bit of chills down my spine when I was listening to those. But yeah, okay. Jonathan, you're pretty biased towards Mr. Nightmare and Corpse Husband because they were the first scary channels you ever watched. Okay. Well, that's cool. I can understand that. Well, the first one that I ever watched was Mr. Nightmare. And I didn't find out about Darkness Prevails until a little bit later. But I started watching him and I just fell in love with the way he narrated. I like his catchphrase, "This world is a strange one." I just like his overall delivery and narration. But the one that we didn't get to, Unit 522, is another one of my personal. At the end of all his videos, he says it in a distorted, demonic voice. He always says, "There's always a reason to be afraid," and it sounds really cool and demonic. Yeah, maybe we'll get to him another time. Okay, so you choose Mr. Nightmare's hotel stories as your favorites. Yeah, I like that one. Like I said, especially the last one where he's sleeping. All of a sudden, the lady whispers, "You're gonna have to let them in," and she tries to kill him. That one got to me. And the Ouija board and the paranormal ones from Corpse Husband, those were my favorites. I'm just glad I couldn't make it until we got to more Darkness Prevails and to Unit 522. So who knows? Maybe I'll do another stream like this in the future where we just react to scary stories again, if you guys would be interested in that. But anyway, I'm glad we got to do this. And nothing creepy happened over here while I did this. I know, it does that. Like when my air conditioner outside my room here, it kicks on, it'll start flickering for a couple of seconds and then it'll stop. So I should check out Creeps McPasta, That Creepy Reading, Mr. Spooky, and King Spook. Those are more great scary YouTubers. Okay. I think I've heard of Mr. Spooky, but I don't know about all the others. And I'll definitely give them a listen. I know it says I've got 2 people still watching. I know Jonathan's here. Who is the other person? Is it you, Zach D, or Timothy, or I know it's not Mott's because he just left a while ago. So I'm just curious. I don't have a real reason for asking that, other than just the fact that I'm curious as to who the other person is. It better not be a ghost. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking it's Zach D. Are you still here, Zach? Maybe it's a ghost. It better not be a ghost. Otherwise, I really am going to get freaked out. But anyway, to the 2 of you still watching, thank you for sticking with me for 3 hours. This is definitely the longest stream I've ever done, and I'm happy that you guys enjoyed it. I hope some of them creeped you out a little bit. I hope some of them sent chills down your spine. I know they did for me. And anyway, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and end this stream. I'm just getting tired of standing. I'm used to standing for a long period of time because of me working at Wendy's, but I just my back's starting to hurt and my legs are starting to get that sore feeling from standing too long. So yeah, I'm going to end it now. We've reached the 3-hour mark. Wow, that's incredible. Never gone that long before. Anyway, Jonathan, Zach, Tim, Motts, and whoever else came in. Zach Phelps Roper, the former Westboro Baptist Church member, which it was pretty cool having him here. I just want to say thank you for the stream. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to do this. Wendy's probably sucks. It does. It has its days where it does suck. Oh, okay, it is you, Zach D. Okay, I figured it was you that was still here. So Zach, before I close the stream, what was your favorite scary story? And your favorite YouTuber out of the ones that we listened to? That is, if you had one. Oh, God. Like I said, my personal favorites were Mr. Nightmare's hotel stories, especially that last one where the lady said, whispered in the person's ear, "You're gonna have to let them in," and tried to kill the guy. And I also liked Corpse Husband for his Ouija board and paranormal stories. Those were my favorites. The first guy was cool. Yeah, that was the first guy was Mr. Nightmare. He's definitely one of my favorites. But my favorite, like I said, I'm a little biased towards Darkness Prevails. Darkness Prevails is my favorite one out of all of them. And Zach D, I highly recommend checking out more of his stuff. I think you'll really like what he has to offer. Oh, and you like the hotel stories too? Yeah, those are one of my favorites. But anyway, guys, I'm going to go ahead and end the stream here. Like I keep saying, thank you guys for sticking with me this long. I'll let you guys go to sleep now and get on with your Halloween night. And oh yeah, man, I appreciate you doing that, Zach. I'll definitely be watching out for that video. Anyway, guys, I'm gonna go ahead and go. Thank you for joining me, and I will definitely see you guys next time. Take care, guys.